It is absolutely no wonder why the WNBA players are as unbelievably stupid as they are. When you have ownership of WNBA teams who go out of their way to take random pot shots and disrespect the player who has brought all the attention to their league. It's no wonder these players are so dumb and don't understand anything that's going on because you have ownership members like Renee Montgomery of the Atlanta Dream, and now Sheila Johnson, the owner of the Washington Mystics, the same Washington Mystics who play in an arena that's less than 4,000 people, the same Washington Mystics who had to move their game against the Indiana Fever to the Washington Wizards facility and set a WNBA record for attendance at a game. Sheila Johnson is the former wife of Robert Johnson, co-founders of BET. But we'll jump into this as we are now here at Rudy's Rant, powered by coming out powered by coming out of the podcast, where we talk facts over feelings. I thank you so much for your continued support of this channel. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow. Seems like I touched a few nerves with my breakdown of the Time magazine article with Caitlin Clark. By no means am I saying you should abandon Caitlin Clark because of the things that she said in that article. By no means. Caitlin Clark is a 22-year-old young woman who is trying to get along. And maybe she did it strategically and maybe she believes what she said. I don't know. And I really don't even care, to be honest. I do believe she bent the knee and kissed the ring, but I think she just wants to get along. And at the end of the day, she will learn that no matter what she says, the people that don't like her won't believe her. But we have an owner here in Washington Mystics owner, Sheila Johnson, who is basically, I don't care how much money you're worth, you can't be this goddamn stupid. And she was interviewed on CNN where she made some comments about Caitlin Clark that just goes to show you that the people in charge don't have any fucking idea what's going on. They don't have a clue as to what's changed this league. But I'm going to play for you this interview, and it might make you gag on yourself because it's utterly outrageous.
It has taken the WNBA almost 28 years to get to the point where we are now. And this year, something clicked with the WNBA, and it's because of the draft of the players that came in. It's just not Caitlin Clark. It's Reese. We have so much talent out there that has been.
The draft of the players that came in, she mentions Reese. She mentioned no one else. No one else. She says players, but now it's just Reese. Yeah, and all the talent in the WNBA that nobody watched before Caitlin Clark showed up.
Unrecognized. And I don't think we can just pin it on one player.
There has been,
Why
this
not?
phrase has been couched, hasn't it? The Caitlin Clark effect. Why do you think that has been the case?
Well, I want to be very diplomatic about this. It's just the structure of the way media plays out race. I'm going to be very honest. I feel really bad because I've seen so many players of color that are equally as talented, and they never got.
Sheila Johnson doesn't know shit about basketball. She just showed you right there. Sheila Johnson doesn't know anything about basketball. She just told you that she doesn't know anything about basketball. How? There's players that are equally talented. No, there's not. She just blamed the national media for the Caitlin Clark effect. Like, think about that for a second. The same national media that spent literally 4 months building up Angel Reese to create a faux narrative of a rivalry that doesn't exist. This is what she just said. This is an owner of a team. And she sits here and says that, I mean, God, she sits here and says that there's equal talent to Caitlin Clark. There's, it is about other players being drafted. It's about so many other things. And that the national media narrative has created this Caitlin Clark effect. No, 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 no. Are you not paying attention? Do you not watch anything besides, I don't know, what someone puts in front of your face? Because if you watched ESPN, they weren't complimenting Caitlin Clark during the season. They were building up Angel Reese all season. They were trying to do everything they could to knock Caitlin Clark down. And you're going to sit here on CNN and give us a narrative that the national media supported Caitlin Clark? Man, wow. Do you want this is what an out of touch owner who happens to be a black woman, go figure, is going to take this stance because she herself doesn't like the fact that Caitlin Clark is getting the recognition that she has gotten this past year for the success of her play, her skills, her talent that is far better than pretty much the entire league. Like, yes, the entire league. Her overall skills are better than the entire league. See, you don't know basketball. You don't know basketball. Learn basketball, then speak. That's why owners in sports typically don't talk because they don't know anything about the sport they're talking about. It's why they hire other people to run their sports franchises because their sports franchise is nothing more than a toy. That's what it is. There's a reason Hal Steinbrenner doesn't make day-to-day decisions on the Yankees. There's a reason he's not the manager. There's a reason Mark Cuban, for as much as he thinks he knows about basketball, is not the coach. There's a reason for these things. Only person dumb enough to want to run his own team is Jerry Jones with the Cowboys, and you see how that's gone. His ego can't stop getting in his way. You play in an arena that holds less than 4,000 people, Sheila. And the one time you moved your game last year was to play Caitlin Clark, for which you put, I'm sorry, you did it twice. Angel Reese was one of them. And you put 10,000 people in there. And you did it for Caitlin Clark and you put over 20,000. You tell me about how much impact Angel Reese had in this league this past year. And you tell me about the impact of Caitlin Clark to your league. Caitlin Clark's appearance just in your facility increased your average attendance by probably 20% for your season. But let's continue this utter nonsense.
Got the recognition that they should have. And I think right now it is time for that to happen. So last night we read Time magazine where Caitlin Clark was named Athlete of the Year. Why couldn't they have put the whole WNBA on that cover and said the WNBA is the league of the year because of all the talent that we have?
What the fuck is she talking about? What is she talking about? All of the talent. No one was watching your dog shit league. No one was turning it on. All of the talent. You guys have players that don't average 10 points who are ranked as a top 50 player in your league. You have players that are in the league that don't qualify for a scoring title because they don't play enough. And that's literally a third of your league. Get out of here, lady. Like, I'm sorry. You want to put an individual award and give it to an entire league as the athlete of the year? So did you ask that they do that when LeBron James won athlete of the year for Time magazine? Did you ask they put the NBA on the cover? Did you ask that when Lionel Messi won last year that they put all of soccer, the MLS, the Euro League, every soccer player in the world on the cover? Yes, I know they did that for the United States women's national soccer team some years ago. Did you ask that when Simone Biles won Athlete of the Year in 2021, when in fact was the worst year of her gymnastics career? Did you ask that they put the entire U.S. gymnastics team on the cover? Heck, if you want to be honest about it, Simone Biles that year did not earn that award. It's only been in existence since 2019, but that specific year, she didn't earn that award. She actually would have much more she much more earned it this year because she was much better this year than she was in 21. But Caitlin Clark was clear in a way the most impactful athlete on the planet. It wasn't the WNBA. She acts like the WNBA is the reason Caitlin Clark won this. All Caitlin Clark did was continue what she was doing in college. The WNBA had nothing to do with Caitlin Clark breaking the all-time scoring record in college basketball. The WNBA realistically had nothing to do with the reason that Caitlin Clark was the #1 overall pick. The WNBA had nothing to do with why Caitlin Clark drew 2.4 million people to watch the WNBA draft, which was like a 300% increase over the previous years or something like that. Like, the WNBA is not the reason that people turned on the television to watch the Indiana Fever. That's not wasn't a league thing. That was a Caitlin Clark thing. That is the Caitlin Clark effect. And you're the owner of the team. God, you sound as dumb as Renee Montgomery. Wow, you might actually sound dumber. Because Renee Montgomery is just hitting on racism across the board. You're hitting on something that's because at least Renee Montgomery said Caitlin Clark is box office. You're sitting here saying that it's all the talent. You're sitting here saying the entire league as the league of the year. That's not the award. The award is athlete of the year. You really think the WNBA is the league of the year? Really? You really think that when Major League Baseball drew 15 to 18 million viewers for the World Series and your championship drew 2 million and you were force feeding it down people's throats on YouTube by having 4 split screens that included the WNBA on a night where the playoffs for baseball and NFL football were going on? You think we didn't forget? Lady, you're out of your mind, but I'm going to continue.
Because when you just keep singling out one player, it creates hard feelings. And so now you're starting to hear stories of racism within.
Hard feelings? LeBron James has been singled out for 20 years. Michael Jordan was singled out for more than a decade. What are the hard feelings? They're great, great players. They're the greatest. They're 2 of the greatest players of all time. Jordan's the GOAT. LeBron's in the top 5 probably to most people. Might be the GOAT for some people. Hard feelings? No, most people appreciate presence of greatness because it elevates them. The WNBA is the only league that doesn't seem to understand that Caitlin Clark is elevating the entire league. There are players in the WNBA that are now far more well-known and appreciated because Caitlin Clark showed up. Like, what are you talking about? And it creates elements of racism. Yeah, that's your black players who want to read every comment on Twitter, want to read every DM on Instagram, and want to attribute all that to being a Caitlin Clark fan rather than just saying these are trolls and assholes who are just people with nothing to do and are not real WNBA fans. They're not real basketball fans. They're not Caitlin Clark fans. They're just assholes in the community.
Than the WNBA, and I don't want to hear that. We have got to operate and become stronger as a league and respect everybody that's playing. And
That's a
their
lie.
talents.
You don't respect everyone who plays and their talents. You don't do that, actually. In fact, you've had players who have negatively commented about Caitlin Clark literally the entire season. They've been doing it since before she got drafted. Whether it was Diana Taurasi, Angel Reese, Asia Wilson. It boils her blood, remember? Boils her blood. Breonna Stewart. And this is black and white. They have been negative. Kennedy Carter does physical things to her. Dejanay Carrington mocks her, eye gouges her, criticizes her on Twitter because she's not a freaking activist. Even though Caitlin Clark flat out said a lot of the things that she said in that Time magazine article, she said a lot of those things months before that, but you weren't paying attention.
You mentioned Time magazine.
Yes.
And Caitlin Clark has made a point of using that moment to say we need to celebrate the black players in the WNBA and what they have done, and credits them for being so much the foundation of the success of the league. How important is that, if it shouldn't have to be the case?
Yeah, she shouldn't have had to say that, but I applaud her for saying it. We cannot continue to operate because this division of racism is going to tear us apart.
Kathy Engelbert was criticized.
Good Lord. She shouldn't have to say, you're right. But your league is built on women who are largely lesbian, who taking a stance that they don't like a straight woman and they don't like the white woman and the white straight woman, no less. And they have problems with everything. There's problems with everything. It is a lesbian versus straight league. The league is largely lesbian, and the lesbian population of the league seems to have a major problem with Caitlin Clark. You don't want to acknowledge it. It's the truth. It's just the truth. They're jealous. There's just jealousy and envy that permeates this league, and they can't handle the fact that she's just better than all of them. Can't handle it. Why should she have to uplift black players? I said this in my other video. It's not her job. Her job is to play basketball. She didn't sign a contract that says there's no section of her contract that says you must be an activist, you must lead marches, you must make comments to uplift players in your league besides yourself, you must do X, you must do Y. No, a contract for professional sports does not say that. It does not say that. There's no mention of I have to go on the street and lead marches. There's nothing that says I have to comment about controversial topics every single time something happens in this country. That's not my job. My job is to play basketball. And as a basketball player, she did it at an elite level, and she did it at such an elite level that people saw other players play who became very well known and have benefited off of her publicity and her notoriety. Like, that's just a fact. So you applaud her for saying it. She said it literally in April. She said it in May. She said it in June. She has said it over and over and over and over again, but you weren't listening. But now, apparently, because she said it all in one article and some other stuff that probably went over, that probably was a mistake, because I think she's just flat wrong. Yes, I think there were hits on her. I just like there were bounties paid in the NFL to hit quarterbacks. I believe there were hits put on Caitlin Clark to put her on her ass to teach her a lesson. Absolutely. But she'll defend them, and she has defended them, and she's been very humble and gracious and graceful in every press conference. She's never taken a pot shot at anybody, despite the fact that the players take pot shots at her every freaking day. And Sheila Johnson doesn't want to mention that? Please.
Wasn't she, for not being firmer in her condemnation of the racist abuse online suffered by the players? What was your reaction to how she dealt with that?
Well, I didn't want to think about it too much, but I think the players were right. She admitted that she made a mistake in the way she phrased it. And I just think she could have been a little bit more diplomatic and understanding of what the landscape of what's happening out there. Because the WNBA is at an inflection point where we're starting to really go up. And I don't want us to lose that momentum. What is happening now is perfect. But as I've also told many, many of our players, I said, this is just the canary in the coal mine. We have got to be careful because we're now entering into a new political climate. We do not want to draw attention to ourselves in a negative way, to have anybody use it as ammunition against us as athletes.
How do you do that? What are your players saying to you?
I'm freezing it right here because I want you to see what they put here on the bottom of the screen. The 2024 season had best TV viewership in 24 years, highest attendance in 22 years. Why? 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 Why, Sheila? You really think it was because Cameron Brink was drafted number 2 in the WNBA draft and played 5 games? You really think it was because of Camila Cardoso being drafted 3rd, or Rakea Jackson drafted 4th, or Angel Reese drafted 7th? Really? You really believe that? All I got to do is go look at the attendance figures and watch how the Indiana Fever's attendance went from 4,000 to 17,000 overnight at home, overnight, and how they filled up every building they went to, and how the ticket prices of secondary resale was through the roof to go watch Caitlin Clark play, and how every single team, pretty much every team except for Chicago, don't know really why. I think Chicago and Dallas don't really know why they didn't do it, but they didn't move their games to the United Center and to the American Airlines Arena in Dallas when Caitlin went there to play. But Vegas moved their games to T-Mobile. Washington Mystics moved their games to, I think it's the Compaq Center. Atlanta moved it to the Phillips Arena. Minnesota opened up their upper deck, which they don't typically do. The Liberty and Fever filled up the building at the Barclays. Seattle has a big arena, they filled it up. Phoenix has a big arena, they filled it up. Teams move their games to bigger facilities, largely to allow fans in the building who are going to buy tickets, who are going to skew ratings and attendance for those teams. This was Caitlin Clark effect, the effect of Caitlin Clark.
You about what they want to see happen.
We all need to sit down. And I think our leadership with our commissioner, she needs to sit down and even bring a psychologist in. I don't know. But talk to the players and how we resolve the issues that we're going through. Because not only what's going through with the WNBA is happening in society as well. We're seeing it more and more. From the Karens that you see on social media, this has got to stop. We need to have a healthier America. And more than anything, I want to have a very healthy league.
This woman literally just took a shot at white people, white women. She just took a shot at white women. Look, I understand what a Karen, what people have now called a Karen, but was that necessary, Sheila Johnson? You just continued this narrative, this rhetoric. You just basically, you just took a shot at white women, largely white straight women across the nation with that comment right there. Because that's pretty much who that Karen comment is directed to. Now, I do think there are women that, or people who put their nose in stuff they have no business putting their nose in. Mind you, at the same time, we're living in a country right now where people are praising the fact that someone assassinated the CEO of United Healthcare. We live in a sick time where logic and sense don't make sense. Where people are praising this all over social media like this was some type of heroic act. Are you kidding? And while this doesn't compare to what she just said, this is just another pot shot at people who largely are the ones that support your sport. Let's be real. The country's 67% white, and you're taking shots at white folks across the country. I mean, if you think that works and you think that's going to benefit your league, then you go right ahead. See how you think it, see what happens. There's a reason you play in a 4,000 seat arena. No one in Washington, D.C. cares about your team unless Caitlin Clark shows up. You want the entire league on the cover of an individual award. You're an idiot. You want psychologists to speak to your players? No, what your players need to do is they need to have inspect themselves and reflect on themselves as to why they're so angry. And if they do need a psychologist, then they should speak to a psychologist. But a psychologist will tell them that they're probably the problem because they didn't have these feelings a year ago before Caitlin Clark showed up. They didn't have these things when their league was being watched by 13 people. They didn't have these things when no one was writing about their league or talking about their league. They've only had these problems now and these issues now because there's a player that came in who's out earning them by a mile in endorsement deals. They're jealous, getting more attention than they could ever dream of. But at the same time, now that the attention's coming, they're not getting the attention that they want. They're not getting their asses kissed. They're not getting, kumbaya moments while they shoot 37% from the field. They don't want to have their games critiqued the way the NBA players have their games critiqued and how baseball players have their games critiqued and football players, etc. They like being in their little bubble. Well, you're not in a little bubble anymore. If you want to go back to being in a bubble, kick Caitlin Clark out of your league and you can go back to the way it was. You can kick her out of the league and you can see where your attendance goes, where your ticket sales go, where your merch sales go, where your social media stuff goes, and where your freaking viewership on television for ratings goes. Because it will not be better. It will be far worse. You think that magically you brought in 1 million plus more fans for the WNBA finals? No. Those are fans of Caitlin Clark's who kept watching women's basketball. To sit here and act like all of a sudden you more than doubled your fan base organically through other means not involving Caitlin Clark is a disingenuous lie. You're lying to yourself. And the fact that you would get on CNN, and sit here and tell the world that this should have been a league award and that this had to do with all the players that were drafted, and you only named one besides Caitlin Clark. It just shows that you're a lying sack of garbage too, and that you're riding that line. But at least Renee Montgomery wasn't dumb enough to not acknowledge that Caitlin Clark is box office. You don't even acknowledge that much. You even go to the point of talking about it's not fair to her. Why not? She's getting paid millions of dollars because of it. Angel Reese is making millions of dollars because of the attention she's getting. So while she may not like the negative attention, she's getting the attention, but it's making her boatloads of bread. And I'm sure there's tons and tons of women in the WNBA that are jealous of her too. But let's not lie and create a narrative and a rhetoric that continues to permeate bullshit about how not because of Caitlin Clark, when you damn well know it is. You're expanding your league because of her. But hey, you believe what you like. But this is why the WNBA has the problems that it has. This is why. You have owners like this who have no idea what the hell they're talking about. That's all I got. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, ring that bell. I'm a membership live 9 p.m. Tuesday nights. I appreciate y'all. I thank y'all. This is Rudy's Rant. Facts.